let's talk about something Josh Brolin said recently that's been rattling around in my head. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Brolin, who stars in the film Weapons, made a comment about streaming movies that's hard to ignore. He said that Weapons is the opposite of all the same shit on other streamers. And you know what? He's not wrong. The director of Weapons, Zach Cregger, echoed that sentiment. He said that horror is one of the last creative genres and lamented how there really isn't a lot of movies for grown-ups anymore. That phrase, quote, just another streaming movie, is doing a lot of heavy lifting, because we all know what that means. It means disposable, it means forgettable, it means something you watch while scrolling your phone and forget about by morning. Now, I want to stress, this isn't a review of Weapons. I haven't seen it, and that's not the point. The point is that Brolin and Cregger are articulating something that a lot of us have felt for a while. Streaming movies, for the most part, don't stick. They don't linger, they don't matter. Let's take Glass Onion as a case study. The sequel to Knives Out had everything going for it. Rian Johnson returning, a star-studded cast, a built-in audience, and yet, it came and went like a gust of wind. People talked about it for a week, maybe two, and then it vanished from the cultural conversation. Compare that to Knives Out, which had a theatrical release, built buzz over time, and grossed over $300 million globally against a modest budget. It became a phenomenon. Glass Onion? A footnote. Netflix gave Glass Onion a limited theatrical run, and many argue they left millions on the table. Ted Sarandos, Netflix's co-CEO, has repeatedly said that they're not interested in traditional theatrical releases. That's a philosophical stance, not just a business decision. And it's one that's costing them cultural relevance. Let me ask you this. Would Happy Gilmore have become a comedy classic if it had gone direct-to-video or direct-to-HBO in 1996? Probably not. But Happy Gilmore 2, a sequel decades in the making, had to settle for a straight-to-Netflix release. It broke records, sure, but will anyone be talking about in 5 years? Or even 5 months? Streaming movies today feel eerily similar to the original movies made for premium cable channels in the 90s and early 2000s. Remember HBO's Tuskegee Airmen from 1995? It had a stacked cast. Lawrence Fishburne, Cuba Gooding Jr., Courtney B. Vance, Andre Braugher, John Lithgow, Cuba Gooding Jr., and yet when Red Tails came out in 2012, also starring Cuba Gooding Jr., ironically, nobody revisited the Tuskegee Airmen. It was forgotten. Same goes for HBO's Attack of the 50-Foot Woman with Daryl Hannah, 1998's When Trumpets Fade, Conspiracy with Kenneth Branagh and Stanley Tucci. And Conspiracy is often ranked as one of HBO's best original movies, but how many of you have actually seen it? Let's pivot to the Disney Channel. The DCOMs, Disney Channel original movies, were a staple of millennial childhood, a kind of appointment viewing that built communal excitement. And unlike today's streaming originals, Disney actually marketed them. The channel would hype up premieres with behind-the-scenes specials, cast interviews, and countdowns that made each release feel like an event. Read It and Weep had a full promo campaign in 2006. Now You See It, starring Ellie Michalka, Johnny Picard, and Frank Langella, got its own behind-the-scenes featurette. Even Wendy Wu Homecoming Warrior had promotional blitz. These movies may now be largely forgotten, but at least Disney gave them a spotlight. Compare that to Netflix, where movies drop with little fanfare and vanish just as quickly. The only DCOM to truly break out was High School Musical, and even that was a Black Swan event. It shouldn't have gone as big as it did, but it did. And Disney capitalized on it with a theatrical release for the third film, which grossed over $250 million on an $11 million budget. Then there's Halloweentown. The series Halloweentown, Halloweentown 2 Calabar's Revenge, Halloweentown High, and Return to Halloweentown was a seasonal ritual for a generation of Disney Channel viewers. It had charm, lore, and a cast that fans still adore. Kimberly J. Brown became a Halloween icon, and the franchise carved out a cozy niche in millennial memory. But when was the last time Disney did anything to reinvigorate interest in Halloweentown? The 20th anniversary came and went in 2018 with barely a whisper. No special re-release, no reunion event, no social media blitz, just radio silence. For a franchise that still sparks nostalgia every October, it's telling that Disney has let it fade into the background. Yes, Halloweentown is beloved, but it's also largely been forgotten. And that's the paradox of streaming era legacy. Even the cherished titles can vanish if no one bothers to keep the flame alive. And let's not forget the Cheetah Girls. They weren't just a movie franchise, they were a full-blown cultural phenomenon. The group starred in 3 DCOMs, the Cheetah Girls, the Cheetah Girls 2, and the Cheetah Girls One World. Their debut soundtrack went double platinum, and the second went platinum. They even released 2 non-soundtrack albums, Cheetah-licious Christmas in 2005 and TCG in 2007. At their peak, they were everywhere. Music videos, merchandise, sold-out tours, even video games for the Game Boy Advance and Nintendo DS. And yet today, most people probably couldn't name a single member of the group. Oh, and for the record, the group consisted of Raven Simone, Keely Williams, Adrienne Bailon, and Sabrina Bryan. Yes, I remember the Cheetah Girls. The last tour they did was the One World Tour in 2008, right after the final movie aired. Since then, nothing. No reunion, no anniversary celebration, no revival. Disney has let the Cheetah Girls fade into the background, despite their massive popularity and influence at the time. Even the Spice Girls, who peaked a decade earlier, have had 2 reunion tours. The Cheetah Girls deserved better. They were a moment, and now they're a memory. Streaming platforms like Netflix don't have a High School Musical. They don't have a breakout original movie that transcended the platform and became a cultural anchor. Not one. Bright with Will Smith? Forgotten. War Machine with Brad Pitt? Forgotten. Happy Gilmore 2? Already fading. Glass Onion? A flash in the pan. Even Sharknado, that released on the Sci-Fi Channel in 2013, has more cultural relevance than most Netflix originals. It became a meme, a franchise, a phenomenon. Netflix originals? They're just big budget made for TV movies. Nothing more, nothing less. Streaming was supposed to be the future, but what we're seeing is a repeat of the past. Original movies made for networks like HBO, Showtime, Sci-Fi, and Disney Channel had their moment, and then they disappeared. Streaming is just the latest iteration of that cycle. Movies come out, they pop off for a week, and then we move on. Yes, there are exceptions, but they are just that, exceptions. The rule is forgettability. The rule is cultural amnesia. The rule is streaming is where movies go to die. So here's what I want to know from you. What's the last streaming movie you watched that truly stuck with you? Do you think theatrical releases still matter in 2025? And do you believe streaming platforms are capable of creating lasting cinematic experience, or are they just content mills? Let's get into it in the comments. Josh Brolin and Zach Cregger aren't just venting, they're diagnosing a systemic problem. Streaming platforms have prioritized quantity over quality, speed over substance, and algorithms over artistry. And the result is a landscape littered with forgettable films. We've seen this before. We saw it with cable originals. We saw it with direct-to-video releases. And now we're seeing it with streaming. The technology has changed, but the outcome hasn't. Movies need space to breathe. They need time to build an audience. They need cultural oxygen. And streaming, for all its convenience, doesn't provide that. Until streaming platforms start treating movies like events instead of content drops, we'll keep watching them fade into obscurity 1 week at a time. So until next time, keep watching closely, because sometimes what's missing from the screen tells you more than what's on it.